being a black man in America isn't easy. The hunt is on. And you're the prey.
Today I'm going to be talking about Menace to Society, one of my top 10 favorite films of all time. I reviewed this movie 3 years ago when I first started my channel. It's one of my first reviews, and it's kind of cringeworthy to watch now because it's one of my first reviews. I didn't know what the hell I was really doing. I still kind of don't know what I'm doing, but I think I'm a little bit more seasoned than I was back then. But surprisingly, that video is doing very well, as bad as it is to me, but it's doing well, so I appreciate that. But I decided to go back and rewatch this movie again, and I invited one of my YouTube brothers to check it out with me, Anthony A. Perez. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, check him out. Very brilliant YouTube movie reviewer, kick-ass man, you know what I'm saying? Love the dude, and yeah. Anthony A. Perez, I'm going to leave the link down in the description. I'm going to get to his thoughts later on the film. So we got this thing called Tit for Tat that we do where we pick movies out for each other that we normally would not watch. So he's a Disney buff, and I'm into the, black cinema, black exploitation. So, you know what I mean? So I throw a black movie at him. He throws a Disney movie at me. So this time I got him watching Menace. And he's seen it before, but it's been like a very long time. So he went back and rewatched it again. And so, like I said, I'm going to get to his thoughts in a second. Menace to Society, y'all, is the story of Cain, who is, I don't want to say a victim because I hate using that word victim, but he's a product of his environment, born into a situation where his father was a drug dealer, his mom was hooked on drugs, and the only other mentor that he had in his life was also a drug dealer, street dude, who taught him the game, you know what I'm saying? Had no positive influences on his life, and that's how he grew up. But when you watch the movie, you can tell Cain, if given half a chance, could do something with his life. And so enters Ronnie, who is his mentor's girlfriend before he went to jail. So ever since he went to jail, Cain's now taking care of Ronnie, and her son Ronnie's played by Jada Pinkett Smith. And Ronnie is like the only positive influence that he has, because Cain, as he grows up, he's surrounded by bad people, you know what I mean? And you can tell Cain's not really a bad person, but he's surrounded by nothing but negativity, and so he starts doing negative shit and acting out. And what I like about this movie is they don't paint Cain, even though he's the protagonist, they don't paint him out to be like this angel, like this good guy. If you put Cain in any other movie, the character of Cain, he would be a villain, okay? If you put him in any other movie, but because everybody in this movie is so terrible, it makes him look like the good guy. But you can tell he has a heart where, like I said, given half the chance, he could do something. And Ronnie becomes that voice of reason where it's like, no, Cain, come with me to Atlanta, because she gets a job offer in Atlanta. Come with me. We go to Atlanta, you can start over again, do something with your life. And he also has a friend, Sharif, who was bad like them, but then he ended up converting to Islam, and now he's a Muslim. And he even tries to tell Cain, like, look, man, there's a better way than this shit. So before I ramble on about this movie even further, all right, Anthony Perez, the floor is yours, man. What did you think about Menace to Society?
Rashad and all his viewers. Rashad, thanks for having me in this video, man. Thanks for putting me on to this movie. This is actually a movie I saw at one point, and I just kind of only remembered the beginning of it. I didn't really remember the movie as a whole, so it was nice to go back and watch. And as I'm sure Rashad has already talked about, we were talking about Menace to Society. I'll go ahead and start off my portion here by saying I really enjoyed watching this movie again. It was a movie, like I said, that I saw before, but I only really remembered the beginning of this movie. This movie literally starts off with a bang, and yeah, just on an overall level, it's really well acted. I really enjoy the cinematography of this film. It's very well paced. I never felt bored while watching it. The performances are really, really good in this film, and that's probably my favorite part of this movie is the performances, is that the whole film feels very natural. Nobody really feels like they're overacting. There are a couple moments with some cheesy acting, and most specifically from the younger actors, but for the most part, everybody in this film does a really, really good job, and it was nice to see some familiar faces in here, like Jada Pinkett Smith, as well as Samuel L. Jackson, even though he only has a really brief moment in this film. This movie obviously centers on a black community, and the majority of the characters in this film are all black, pretty much all of them are, and yeah, you know, really at the center of the story, I don't really think it has anything to do with color. If anything, it has more to do with the fact that if you were raised in an area of poverty, if you're raised in an area that with violence and crime, and those that kind of raised you, or those that you're raised around, have their toes dipped into crime and all of that kind of stuff, it really just goes to show how many people grow up to become who they are. It really just comes down to how you were raised, who you were raised around, and the decisions you choose to make within that peer pressure and that entire culture in that world. Black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't really matter. I know so many people who have been raised in areas of poverty who have gone into crime and have just kind of kept themselves in a circle of people who like to do crime and don't really care. And yeah, this is a film that at the end of the day is tragic. You know, the main character, Kane, I really enjoyed his character. I really enjoyed the actor who plays him. I'm shooting this literally seconds after having paused or ending the movie. The movie is over now, and I literally just stood up and I'm just giving my thoughts right now, fresh as they can be. And I really enjoyed the character of Kane, because here's this character who you can just tell was raised in a bad environment. Not just tell, they show you in the film. He was raised with a dad who killed people. He was raised with a mom who was a drug addict. His mom died of a drug overdose. His dad was killed by a drug dealer. He was raised around murder and drugs and crime. And yeah, you know, it's just a sad upbringing. I'm super grateful when I see movies like this that I wasn't raised in a situation like that. I grew up in Miami in some pretty sketchy areas at times, and I definitely could have gone down the wrong path. And I definitely could have hung around some friends and some people that I knew that ended up going down the wrong path and are in jail or have died. And so, you know, I'm really grateful for my parents, because when I see a movie like this, you just see how those small little stepping stones in somebody's life can lead to them kind of just being gone on the wrong path for the rest of their life. And I really enjoyed the fact that at the end of this movie, the movie really just comes down to the fact that, hey man, you gotta change your life. You can't allow yourself to be stuck in peer pressure or be caught up in these crazy worlds and crime and all this kind of stuff, because at the end of the day, it will catch up with you. By the time that Kane finally feels like he enjoys his life, that he wants to do something with his life, that he wants to be something, that he wants to be there for someone else. There's a line that his grandfather says early in the film. He asks him if he, you know, wants to live. Does he care if he lives or not? And at that time, he says he doesn't know. And at the end of the movie, with his narration, he says that he does want to live, and it's too late now, right? It's just really, at the end of the day, a really tragic movie with some real shit in there, man. Like, at the end of the day, there's so much real stuff that's going on in this movie. That's why I really enjoyed it, because it felt so real, it felt so tangible. I know people that are somewhat like these people in this movie. Maybe not to the same extreme, and I think that that's kind of because I chose to push away from these people. But I do know a lot of people have just chosen to stay in crime and just kind of stay on drugs and all these kinds of things and violence, and it's just gotten them nowhere. And you just end up staying in this circle of poverty. You don't really end up getting yourself anywhere that you really want to get yourself. You think that drugs and money and girls and all this kind of stuff are going to get you places, but it really doesn't. And on a cinematic level, yeah, I really enjoyed the lighting, like I mentioned, the cinematography. The film was well paced, it was well written. There's a lot of characters in this movie, and I think that that's definitely probably one of my weaker elements of the film. There's a lot of characters, and they're just kind of here and there. Some of them have arcs, some of them are just kind of there to be that friend. And you know, it's not a film necessarily with a full-blown arc for every character, but I really enjoy how it focuses on Kane. I really enjoy his arc at the end of the film. By the end of the film, Kane realizes that by the time he gets himself to a place where he's excited to move on and to do something new, he's put so much shit in his past, he's done so much shit in his past, that now he doesn't get to live on and he ends up dying. And it's just a tragic story. It's sad. It's got so much going on in this film. And at the end of the day, it's so real. It feels so real and so tangible. The character, I believe his name is Old Dog, the guy with the braids. Yeah, you know, it's crazy that he will be the character that kind of outlives all these characters. You know, at the very end, there's that drive-by and Kane dies, as well as the other guy. I can't remember his name right now. And he was the guy who didn't want to do drugs and was trying to, you know, get everybody to be straight. You know, he's hung around with these people because they were his friends. But at the end of the day, him hanging around them is the reason he ended up dying. And yeah, man, it's just a really sad situation. And you see somebody like the character of Old Dog, and he's just the worst case scenario for something like this. But yeah, I really appreciate you putting me onto this movie, Rashad. I had a good time going back and watching it, man. And yeah, this time I think it'll stick with me a lot more. I was able to kind of like take from it. I think when I saw it, I was in my teen years before. And one thing that was kind of funny to go back and watch is, obviously, I think this movie came out in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't actually look. But yeah, the attire and just the cars and all that kind of stuff. It's just definitely nice to go back and watch a movie that kind of ports you back to a different time. And yeah, on an overall level, I really did enjoy this movie. Was it a film filled with character development and arcs for all the characters? No, but I feel like it does such a great job of focusing on the character of Kane and really the tragedy of somebody like him who At the end of the day, he knew so much that he did and so many of the things that he was around were wrong, and he didn't necessarily want to do it, but he just kept doing it. He was raised in this. This is who he knew how to be, and he didn't really know anything different until it was too late, and then he died. So yeah, really a tragic situation, a tragic film, and some real shit, and I really did enjoy the movie. I appreciate it. So I give it back to you now, Rashad. Big thanks for having me in this video, man, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
That's what's up, family. I'm glad you enjoyed this movie, and it was a joy for me to go back and watch it again. This is one of those movies where, you know, because you watch some old movies and you say, okay, that movie didn't really age too good, or this shit's really dated. Menace is not dated at all. It still holds up to this day. The performances, the soundtrack, just the feelings you get when you watch it. And I probably should have said this earlier, but this is a spoiler review. So even to this day when I watch it, when Kane gets killed, it still hits me. Because here it is, he's seeing the light, he wants to get out, and he's about to get out, but then he comes across these guys that he crossed over some girl that he got pregnant, and it was her cousin, and he came back and he killed him. And the more I watch this movie, I'm thinking to myself, Kane should have probably killed that guy when he had the chance, because he stomped him out pretty good. He beat the shit out of him, okay? Remember the scene where dude approached him like, hey, which one of y'all's Kane? You know, yo, I'm Alina's cousin, partner. I don't like the way he been dogging, and I don't either. Kane beat the fuck out of him. And then old dog even got a lick in there, you know, motherfucker. He should have killed him when he had the chance, man. But hey, Kane Crowder spilled milk, man. The guy came back, man, killed Kane. And that scene where Stacy's holding him and he's spitting up blood bubbles, and he's like, damn, you know, I knew I was going to see this fool someday, but not like this. Blasting. You know, it's funny like that in the hood sometimes. You never knew what was going to happen or when. That scene still gets me. Now, back in the day, and I think most people my age can attest to this, my favorite character was Old Dog, because Old Dog was just a buck wild ass character. As a matter of fact, this movie is almost like the black version of Goodfellas almost. You know what I'm saying? Because you have the protagonist of Kane, who is, even though he's doing crime and shit, but at the same time you can tell he's not really a bad person, man. He's just in a fucked up situation, and he's almost like us, you know, he's almost like our eyes looking at this whole shit. And kind of like in Goodfellas with Henry Hill is almost like Kane, where he's almost on the outside looking in, and then you always have that buck wild ass character, like in Goodfellas you had Tommy, played by Joe Pesci, buck wild ass, crazy. But then you got Old Dog, Lorenz Tate, crazy, didn't give a fuck from the opening of the movie, when he killed those damn Koreans. Listen, that's one thing back in the day. I don't know if it's like that nowadays, but back in the day, you know, you ain't talk about people's mama. Whether you was black or white or whatever, you ain't talk about motherfuckers' mamas, okay? That sounded crazy, motherfuckers' mamas. This movie came out in the summer of 93, and 93 was the summer of Jurassic Park, and what else came out that summer? Jurassic Park, Hard Target, Dragon the Bruce Lee Story. You know, some hits came out that summer. And Menace kind of fell under the radar because I didn't get to see this in the movies, all right? As a matter of fact, my auntie then, we had a choice to go see, I think it was between Poetic Justice and Menace, and we chose to go see Poetic Justice because of John Singleton. He just did Boys in the Hood. Nobody knew about the Hughes brothers in this little hood film, you know what I mean? So I didn't get to see Menace in the theaters, but I did see it on VHS. I rented it from Blockbuster. That's back when they had the red sleeve and the tape. I rented it from Blockbuster, and I've only done this with one other movie that I can remember. Only one other movie I've done this with. I watched it as a 14-year-old kid. I watched Menace to Society by myself, and when the movie was done with, I rewound the tape all the way to the beginning. Shows how old I am because I'm rewinding shit. I rewound it to the beginning, and then I hit play, and I watched it all over again from beginning to end. Watched it back to back. Only other movie I can remember doing that with is Crash. That came out back in 2005. That's the only movie I remember doing that with. That's how powerful and impactful that movie was to me at 14 years old. And now fast forward, I'm 40, about to be 41 in a couple of months, and the movie still hits me like that. Poetic Justice, I went to see that in a packed house, and Poetic Justice, at first, everybody was all into the movie, you know. I mean, if you ever been to a black film with all black crowd, there's almost nothing like it. It was crazy, and then when it got to about, like, when it started becoming that little sappy love story, the theater started getting real quiet, and then by the end of the movie, we're like, I guess that was okay. So in retrospect, we should have went to go see Menace, you know what I mean? So y'all, I already gave it a grade in my other video, so I guess I just, you know, yeah. A plus for Menace to Society, all right? A plus 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 plus, all right? Top 10 movie of all time. So, yeah, that's all I got for this shit. Anyways, what did you guys think of Menace? Did you enjoy it? Did you not like it? Comment freely below. If you like it, dig the content, hit that like and subscribe. Notification bell in the corner. This is Rashad G signing out. See you in the next video.